percentage that you think gets this deal done?
Oh, I don't think Adam Silver has any interest in pegging it to a percentage at all. And Adam Silver addressed the media during the League Cup final in Vegas and said that he'll get involved if they want him to. But here's the surprise. He's been involved from the beginning. What he was saying is, will I go to the actual table? You don't need the commissioner of the NBA to be at this table at any time. But what they've done is they've extended the deadline first by 30 days, 40 days. So it's been a total of 70 days, which all you're doing is delaying a work stoppage. You want to get to that work stoppage because that's a legal term of art. You want to get to some sort of lockout or strike so then it can go to the next stage of these negotiations.
Let's be straight. WNBA ownership seems so fed up with this entire mess that they might actually let Adam Silver shut the league down entirely. We're not talking about restructuring or temporarily pausing operations. We're talking about completely ending it. And yes, that sounds extreme, but hear me out. This situation is far more serious than most people realize.
Here is that the players in the WNBA want to have a pegged revenue number the way they have it in the NBA. And Adam Silver is saying no because the NBA owners are saying no because that's not taking into account all of the money that the WNBA owners need to profit and take off the table to pay down debt that has been accruing over the decades of losses. So that is why they're not having a meeting of the minds on any percentage, which is why the NBA is offering minimum salaries increasing like up to $1 million, because then you can absolutely chart and express what your expenses.
These CBA talks have turned into a total train wreck. Players are ready to walk out. Owners keep claiming they've offered everything the numbers allow, while Adam Silver is trapped between two sides that can't even agree on basic financial realities. There's even talk that Kathy Engelbert could be part of what gets negotiated away. Apparently, players want her out, and some ownership groups wouldn't exactly mind starting fresh. Nobody knows if that's really blocking the deal. But when nearly everyone wants your commissioner gone, it says a lot about how things are going.
Players are not going to move on a revenue split versus derived revenue share off of a fixed number. What is your opinion on what happens?
Maybe the end of the WNBA.
Let's break down what ownership has actually proposed. Considering the league's financial situation, it's actually pretty solid. They're talking about a $1 million maximum salary. Average pay would land around $417,000. Add roughly $200,000 in performance bonuses, and the true max would be closer to $1.2 million once everything is factored in. They're also putting some form of revenue sharing on the table. Compare that to the current max of just over $200,000, and you see these are massive jumps across the board.
Popular to who? To the large majority of the... I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. If what you're saying that there have been expansion fees paid and they're trying to expand and they've got broadcast deals that were totally pinned to the NBA deals, is that what you mean by unpopular? What I'm telling you is that if the players get too greedy, it will...
But here's what happened next. Players looked at all that and said absolutely not. They didn't just decline, they voted to authorize a full strike. And get this, 98% voted yes, with only 3% holding back. Now, everyone's guessing who those few are, and Caitlin Clark's name keeps coming up. Nothing's confirmed, but people are reading the tea leaves because she might be the only one who understands that you can't demand money from a business that's already bleeding cash. Let's get uncomfortable for a moment. The deal on the table represents a huge upgrade from the current reality. We're talking salaries doubling or even tripling in some cases. Going from $200,000 to $1 million at the top isn't a lowball. It's life-changing for almost anyone. Yet apparently the thinking is that even more is deserved. And here's where I'll say something unpopular. It's not. Not when the fundamentals don't support it. These ownership groups are bending over backward to make this sustainable. They're absorbing losses year after year, and they're still proposing dramatic compensation increases. Meanwhile, there's a narrative that players are being disrespected, when in reality they're being offered more than the league's revenue can support. That's not a functioning business model. That's economic fantasy. An NBA labor expert explained on a podcast exactly what's happening behind closed doors. and it's worse than the public realizes. Adam Silver has been involved from day one. Even though he said publicly he'll intervene if necessary, he's already there. The problem is that no negotiation skill can overcome a math problem. Players want compensation tied to revenue, just like NBA players. Owners are saying absolutely not, and the reasoning is clear. This league has been accumulating debt for decades. That's the part nobody wants to admit. The WNBA isn't just unprofitable, it has been losing money since launch. Every season, tens of millions vanish. The NBA has been covering those losses all along. So when players demand a fixed percentage of revenue, ownership sees it as completely detached from reality. Revenue sharing assumes a profitable business, with money left after expenses to divide. The WNBA doesn't have that. It has accumulated debt that must be addressed before splitting profits that don't exist. The expert explained ownership wants expense control. They need to know what they're committing to on salaries to plan for eventual profitability. You can't do that with percentage-based compensation when revenue fluctuates and barely covers operations. Players are essentially demanding a share of a pie that hasn't been baked yet, and threatening to burn down the kitchen if they don't get it. Now, ownership is getting creative. They're proposing things like eliminating certain benefits, such as housing, while pushing maximum salaries higher. They're moving money around to make headline numbers more attractive while cutting total costs. That's smart business. Focus on elite talent that drives attention, trim elsewhere, and hope it's enough to close a deal. What's interesting is that strategy usually comes from the union, not management. The fact that owners are suggesting it shows how desperate they are to avoid total collapse. The negotiation expert explained the usual process. You assign value to everything: housing costs per team, benefits, minimum salary increases, then trade pieces until both sides feel they've gained. Fundamentally, ownership always wants to come out ahead. That's just business. Right now, WNBA players are demanding concessions that would push owners so far into the red there'd be no path back. And here's the scary part. The expert stated clearly that if players don't back down on demanding a revenue percentage, the WNBA could face its ultimate demise. He wasn't softening the message, he said the league could fold. When the host asked how realistic that scenario was, he doubled down. He explained that this is precisely the moment when a well-funded competitor could launch a new league. Think about the implications. Every WNBA player is effectively a free agent during these negotiations. They all need income and want more of it. If a group like Project B or any other investor with capital decided to start a competing league right now with better pay, they could lure away every top player almost overnight. The WNBA could be finished. Adam Silver understands this. The players understand it, but they appear willing to take that risk anyway. According to the expert, players made a huge strategic mistake. They declared this their moment, putting enormous pressure on themselves to extract major concessions in this CBA, fueled by the visibility Caitlin Clark brought. But that's poor negotiating. Agreements are usually built incrementally. You advance gradually, not swing for the fences all at once, because that approach traps you psychologically. Anything short of total victory feels like failure. That's exactly where the players are now. They've worked themselves into a position where even a deal that doubles their pay doesn't feel like enough. They've created a mental trap in which reasonable compromise reads as losing, and that trap could actually destroy the league. Now, let's talk about the fans, something nobody wants to discuss. These negotiations assume fan interest will keep rising, but here's the reality check. Most of the growth came from one player, Caitlin Clark, who brought millions of new viewers, filled arenas, and made casual fans care about the WNBA. Remove her, and what's left? A league that struggled to draw 3,000 fans per game for most teams, losing money every year. Players are demanding NBA-level pay, but they're not generating NBA-level revenue. It's that simple. TV revenue fuels NBA salaries. Massive viewership brings advertisers who pay top dollar, generating billions, which funds huge player contracts. The WNBA doesn't have those numbers. Outside of a handful of stars, ratings remain low. You can't demand 8-figure salaries if the product isn't generating 8-figure revenue. This isn't about gender discrimination, it's basic economics. And here's the part that should worry players most. Ownership is done playing nice. They've subsidized this league for decades out of goodwill and commitment to women's basketball. But goodwill has limits. When losses reach tens of millions annually and players demand even more while threatening strikes, eventually owners will walk away. They'll cut their losses and they'll shut it down. And apparently, we're closer to that breaking point than anyone wants to admit publicly. The debt situation is critical. The expert explained that owners cannot agree to revenue percentage deals when every dollar coming in is needed just to pay down existing debt. The league has operated in the red for so long that it's trying to climb out of a massive hole. Giving players a bigger share of revenue that barely covers current operations means the debt never gets addressed. It just keeps piling up until the entire structure collapses. So, what are the players' options if the WNBA folds? Actually, they have some alternatives. Unrivaled is paying significant money for a condensed season. International leagues offer multi-million-dollar contracts to top talent. Project B could launch a competitor with better pay. Players aren't without options, but you know who doesn't have alternatives? All the players who aren't stars. Those in the middle or bottom of rosters rely on the WNBA because they aren't getting big overseas offers or unrivaled contracts. They're the ones who would be devastated if the league disappears. That's why this all-or-nothing approach is so reckless. The top 10 players will be fine. Caitlin Clark will be fine. She'll earn through endorsements and alternative leagues. But what about player number 75 on a roster? What about veterans too old for the international grind? What about young players who need development time only a domestic league can provide? They all lose badly. Ownership has offered revenue sharing, dramatically higher salaries, incentives, and benefits. Yet the response is that it's not enough because players want NBA money. But the WNBA isn't the NBA. It doesn't generate NBA revenue, pull NBA viewership, or have NBA profit margins. Pretending otherwise doesn't make it real. It just creates a disconnect from reality. Here's the harsh truth. Players think they have all the leverage because the league is finally getting attention, but they're misreading the situation completely. That attention is fragile and recent. It could vanish as fast as it arrived. If they force a work stoppage, kill momentum with a strike, or push casual fans away by making everything about compensation instead of basketball, that attention disappears. The fans who started watching because of Caitlin Clark aren't diehards, they're new, and you don't build a sustainable business by alienating new customers. Owners can walk away. They've been losing money anyway. If players push too hard, ownership can just shut it down, say they tried, and move capital elsewhere. Players can't walk away. This is their career and income. They need the WNBA more than the league needs any single player. Yet they're negotiating like they hold all the cards, and that miscalculation could be fatal. Adam Silver is trapped trying to prevent catastrophe. He can't force owners to accept a deal that guarantees more losses. He can't force players to accept economic reality. All he can do is push deadlines and hope someone blinks. But delaying deadlines only postpones the inevitable. At some point, there will be either a deal, a strike, or a lockout. And once that happens, the real negotiations begin. Except in this case, those negotiations might end up being about how to wind down the league. The WNBA is teetering on the edge of a cliff, and players are asking for a running start. Ownership has already offered substantial raises, but apparently that isn't enough when the demands are for money that doesn't exist. If this league collapses because players push too hard, remember this moment.